a black teenager, James Parker, just wanted to buy a laptop. But not only was he unwelcome, he was also insulted and kicked out of the store, simply because of his skin color and the way he dressed, which was different from the other customers. The feeling of being offended and degraded made him feel like he didn't belong in that space. But just when things seemed to be at their worst, a miracle happened. Elon Musk, the world-renowned figure, unexpectedly walked into the store. And what happened next will leave you speechless. One June afternoon, the stifling heat outside couldn't dampen the sense of ease James Parker felt as he stepped into Tech Hub Electronics. The automatic doors opened, welcoming him into the cool space inside. The display shelves, filled with sleek laptops and sharp screens, made his eyes sparkle. This was his first time stepping into a large tech store like this. And it was also the first time James had enough money to personally choose something he truly desired. Slowly, he approached the laptops, his hand gently gliding over their smooth surfaces. His heart filled with anticipation. He had spent countless days, even nights, researching every kind of laptop, learning about their configurations, features, all to make the right decision. Just as he was about to pick up the first laptop to inspect it further, a deep, cold voice cut through his thoughts. "Are you sure you can afford this?" A tall man in a security uniform stood right behind James. His voice seemed to make the air around them heavier. James felt a pang of unease but tried to maintain his calm demeanor. "Yes. I'm just looking around. I'm planning to buy one." The security guard didn't smile. His gaze seemed to pierce through James. "Can you actually afford it?" His tone was filled with doubt, as if James didn't belong there. A sense of confusion began creeping into James's mind. But he confidently pulled out his wallet, showing the money he had diligently saved up over many months. "I have enough," he replied, his voice shaking slightly. Without changing his expression, the guard persisted. "People like you usually aren't here. You don't belong in this place. I think it's time for you to leave." James felt his face burn, not out of embarrassment, but because of the blatant injustice right in front of him. "Leave? I just came here to buy something. I haven't done anything wrong." He tried to remain calm, but his voice began to crack. The security guard stepped closer, his eyes still fixed on James. And this time, his voice grew even colder. "This is not your place. You're not the kind of customer we want. Leave." The lump in James's throat felt like a wave crashing into his heart. The murmurs from the surrounding people grew louder, their gazes filled with curiosity and disdain. He felt as though he were being drawn into a nightmare with no escape. "But I just want to buy a laptop." James couldn't believe that he had to justify himself in this situation, his voice faltering, but not strong enough to change the guard's attitude. Before he could understand what was happening, Tom, the security guard, grabbed James's arm roughly and began dragging him toward the door. Everything around him seemed to evaporate into a fog, voices, the stares of the customers, all merging into a cold, surreal picture that James couldn't break free from. His face turned bright red, his heart pounding with anxiety and shame. This was the first time in James's life that he felt so small, humiliated to the point where he couldn't speak. All the effort, all the hope he had placed in this moment seemed to shatter completely. Just as James Parker was about to leave, the automatic doors opened, and a familiar figure stepped in, causing the atmosphere in Tech Hub Electronics to change instantly. Elon Musk, a name everyone knew, walked in dressed casually, a black t-shirt, dark jeans, and a baseball cap. Despite his simple appearance, no one could fail to recognize him. The store suddenly went silent, as if time had stopped. All eyes were on him. Whispers began to spread rapidly, creating an air of tension. The store employees straightened up, their eyes showing clear surprise. Tom Harris, the security guard, at first didn't recognize who had just entered. But when he looked closely, his body froze. His hand still gripping James's arm but no longer squeezing as tightly as before. His eyes widened, as if trying to confirm if he was seeing correctly. Musk immediately noticed the change. He slowly took off his glasses and looked directly at Tom with a determined gaze. "What's going on here?" His voice was calm but carried an authority that everyone had to heed. Tom fumbled, unable to form coherent words. "And nothing, sir. It's just, I was asking him to leave." Musk looked intently at James, as if trying to read something deep in his eyes. The two exchanged no words, just a silent gaze. Then Musk turned back to Tom, his eyes sharp as lightning. "Why are you asking him to leave?" Musk asked, his lips curling slightly, and his tone became clear, no longer soft. Tom grew uneasy, no longer confident enough to reply. He was just wandering around the store. We thought there might be trouble." Musk raised an eyebrow, his words resonating with everyone in the store. "Trouble? I don't see any issue with him. Are you saying James doesn't have the right to be here?" Tom began to panic, sweat pouring down his face. No, sir. I mean, he can absolutely shop here. Of course." Musk stared at Tom, offering no mercy. "Then I want to meet your manager right now." The atmosphere grew tense. Everyone in the store seemed to hold their breath, their eyes fixed on the unfolding scene. Tom stood frozen, unsure of what to do next, while James silently observed. Musk's presence not only changed the air but also raised a larger question about power and the treatment that each person could receive, regardless of their status. As the doorbell rang, David Richards, the manager of Tech Hub Electronics, quickly walked over, his eyes betraying his anxiety. Despite his sharp appearance in a black suit, he couldn't hide the unease when facing such a special customer. "Hello, Mr. Musk? It's a pleasure to have you," he said with a forced smile. "How may I assist you?" Elon Musk stood there, his gaze sharp as usual, ignoring the polite greeting. "It's unbelievable to see this," he spoke in a deep, commanding voice. "Why are you kicking this young man out when all he wants is to buy something? Do you usually treat your customers like this?" David immediately sensed a shift in the atmosphere. He turned to look at James, and upon seeing the confusion in his eyes, his voice trembled. "This must be a misunderstanding, Mr. Musk. We always value all our customers." Musk didn't take his eyes off the manager, his gaze seeming to tear through his calm exterior. "This boy hasn't done anything wrong. But you let one of your employees treat him as if he doesn't have the right to step into this store." James, standing alone amidst the tension, still hadn't fully regained his composure after what had just happened. He hesitated, finally speaking up. "I just wanted to buy a laptop. I didn't do anything wrong." Musk looked at James, offering a warm smile, and stepped closer. "Then let me help you. You have the right to choose anything here. Take it, and I'll take care of the rest." James looked at him in astonishment. He couldn't believe what was happening. "But I can't accept." His voice was weak, as though he feared this was all just a dream. Musk placed his hand on his shoulder, his gaze filled with comfort. "You can. This is what you deserve after all your efforts. No one should make you feel like you don't belong here." The entire store seemed to fall silent, with only the sound of James's slow footsteps as he moved toward the laptops. The sense of disbelief made it hard for him to believe in himself. His slightly trembling hand reached toward the laptop he had longed for. He felt Musk's gaze empowering him. "Can I really?" James asked, his voice still hesitant. Musk smiled, his voice gentle yet firm. "Go ahead. There's no reason you should refuse this. James silently picked up the laptop. It was the one he had been eyeing for so long. The laptop he had hoped one day he could touch. It felt like a dream had just come true. Thank you, he whispered. Just enough for Musk to hear. Musk turned to the manager, his gaze becoming sharper. I hope this never happens to anyone else in your store. It's an insult to any customer. No one deserves to be treated like this. David Richards didn't dare look up, sweat soaking his brow. Of course, Mr. Musk. We will make changes immediately. Musk turned back, staring directly at Tom Harris, the security guard, who was standing near the door, too afraid to meet his eyes. Remember this, Musk said, his tone firm yet threatening. Respect everyone, no matter who they are. After giving James an encouraging nod, Musk turned and walked out. The automatic door opened, and his figure quickly merged with the rush of people outside. James stood there, eyes following Musk's silhouette as it disappeared, still in disbelief over what had just happened. He hugged the laptop close to his chest, oblivious to the curious gazes around him. The shame he had felt earlier seemed to evaporate, replaced by deep gratitude. He quietly turned around, not paying attention to the apologies from the manager or Tom's embarrassment. The only thing he wanted to do now was go home and tell his mom about this unbelievable encounter. James walked out of Tech Hub Electronics, his mind spinning. When he had entered the store, he had felt like an outsider, someone who had no right to be there. But now, in his hands, was a brand new laptop, and an unprecedented sense of confidence. He hadn't just received a material gift, but the protection of someone he only knew through the media. Elon Musk had stood up for him when no one else did. This moment would never fade. Not because of the laptop, but because of the recognition he had never felt before. At home, the new laptop was carefully placed on the dining table, where his mom was cooking dinner. James sat down, his eyes still fixed on the laptop, then began recounting every detail of what had happened. His mom, still cooking, stopped and looked at him in amazement. Are you serious? James? Elon Musk? I can't believe it. But if that's true, it means you're valuable. You've always deserved that. James nodded, but his mind was still calm. He wasn't the one who had been given a free laptop, but the one who had been acknowledged. But the most important thing he realized was the power of standing up against injustice. He remembered the shame of being kicked out of the store, but also the moment when someone with power said he wasn't wrong, that he had the right to be there, just like anyone else. As night fell, James sat in front of the laptop, his fingers gliding gently over its smooth surface. Each time he touched it, he felt not only the technology but also a reminder of what had happened. It was like a confirmation. He was no longer a child who was overlooked, doubted. He had the right to be present everywhere, to be respected, and to be given opportunities just like anyone else. Day by day, James' story spread quickly. The video recording the incident was shared everywhere, and soon after, headlines appeared with astonishing speed. James Parker, teenager kicked out of store and protected by Elon Musk. This story not only made many admire James' courage, but also served as a reminder that sometimes small actions from influential people can change lives. But for James, the biggest change was within himself. He was no longer the person who entered the store with self-doubt. Now, he felt he could stand firm and protect himself and those around him when needed. One late night, as James lay in bed, the moonlight gently shone through the window. He reflected on what had happened. A faint smile appeared on his lips. He no longer felt small, no longer the person who had been excluded. Life was truly amazing. Sometimes it brings things we could never imagine. James felt the confidence and hope for better things to come. As for Elon Musk, James would never forget that moment, when such an influential person came and told him that he was valuable, that he deserved to be respected, and had the right to be wherever he wanted, without needing anyone's permission. If you feel this story has inspired you and made you reflect on life's values, don't forget to click the subscribe and notification bell button so you won't miss our next videos. We always bring inspiring stories and profound messages. Join our community and share this video with those around you. Note: this is a fictional story, created for entertainment and to convey meaningful messages about resilience, self-respect, and justice. The story is not related to any real events and is not intended to offend or harm any individuals or organizations. All information in the video is purely imaginative and unrelated to any real events.